Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Metroid Other M. In the last part, we met Madeline Bergman and ended up getting the Secret Missile after finally taking out the Radogian. And now we're back in Sector 3 because the Secret Missile allows us to access Sector 0, our next destination. And, admittedly, the door that... The game does its, like, one rare Metroid moment here where you need to remember where you last saw a Secret Missile door. But in the case you didn't see it, they do actively mark it on the map with a small flashing sigil. I think. I forget if you have to have marked it at this point to see that. And the quickest way to get there is to just go through the passageway we used when we first got the speed booster. With that said, we're not immediately going into there once we get to that door. Because, as you may notice on the map, there's a bunch of items we haven't gotten here in Sector 3 yet. No, Sector 2. This is Sector 2. And now that we have Space Jump, Screw Attack, and Super Missile, we can get all of those. So, once we get to the door, we're going on a bit of a speed-up trip throughout the area to grab the items we do not have yet. You don't need to do this. In fact, in some regards, I would recommend waiting until we've beaten the game to go get those for reasons we will get into. God, that is satisfying. The Screw Attack in this game is really good. In some ways, I'd say this is its only good 3D appearance, and that includes 2.5D games. Because when you kill something, you go right through them. You don't bounce off them or anything. In the Prime games it appears in, it's more or less a quintuple jump, and very limited due to it. Here, it is just the infinite jump that doesn't allow you to gain much height, but it definitely allows you to keep distance. And you're just a human buzzsaw. It is fantastic. That's one of the things that, honestly, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, that is one thing that disappointed me about Dread. I thought its Screw Attack was damaging, yes, but the way you bounced off a lot of things that you would have at, you would fight at the point in the game you had it, just made it feel very underwhelming to me. Mind you, there are ways you can get it early, which, those are fun. With that said, as I'm showing off here, you want to be careful up here in this Morph Ball tunnel you Shine Spark into, because you have to jump over the gap you Shine Spark through to get to a second missile tank, and you need a surprising amount of jumping timing precision to get to there, as just jumping at the ledge with the Morph Ball will not give you enough speed or distance. You need to build up some momentum first. It's an odd amount of precision needed in this game, for that specific missile that the game never really requires of you otherwise, so it stands out like nothing else. With that said, here we are in the room we need to be in. Also, yeah, see, look, if I hit those enemies I don't kill with the Screw Attack, I still go right through them. Dread. There's our Secret Missile door. We're not done with getting items around the area, though. There's still, I think, 3 or 4 we can get by going through an entire circle of the area. So, we're dedicating the first half or so of the part just to that. With that said, by and large, we're going to be speeding up a lot of it. Because there's not much point not to, because it's a lot of the same level design we've seen before. The only reason I'm not cutting it out entirely is there are some parts where we haven't been to in a while that we need to take new passageways to get through. Additionally, in a Metroid game, I feel completely cutting stuff out, unless there's like quick travel points, can be a misnomer and misleading in certain regards, because you might not find the best route to get to there. And since in a lot of the Metroid games, this is mostly the 2D games, not so much the case here, you want to get to the end as fast as possible, I just find cutting it out to be unnecessary. That's mostly me explaining my methodology for when we get to the Prime games, I will admit, but that's for then, this is now. First difference is when we get to this room where we first fought the Cracians, or whatever they were called, the electrifying dudes, you can't get to this door because there's ice, which you need a Super Missile to destroy. So now we've completely opened up this passageway for access moving forward. I remember when I first played the game, I went back for that missile tank we got a moment ago. And then I backtracked the long way around to get to this room, which, you don't have to do that. And I'm not speeding this up because we haven't shown this up before. I mentioned this when we were first in this room. But you can climb these platforms up here to get to a Morph Ball tunnel that takes you back to the side of the top of this room that you need to Shine Spark from to get to the other save room on the far side of the top level. And, again, oddly Metroid Prime-esque, but 3D Metroid I feel is always going to feel slightly like Metroid Prime when it comes to Morph Ball stuff, because there's only so much you can do with it visually without it just looking like what they did there, as far as, like... God, Prime 1 is 20 years old this year, so is Fusion, isn't it? Oh my god. That is almost scary. So now back to speeding up, now that we've seen that new method of getting through there. The next big thing also, by the way, the fumble eyes, they can only be killed by these screw attacks. So these big guys we've seen in 2 rooms, now they're dead. The next room we're going to be needing to get an item in is the room we shine sparked through not too long after this one. I think it's the room after this one. Because now that we have the wave beam, we can get an item as well. Oh, that's right, speed boost can also kill fumble eyes. The third one spawns in here. We need to kill every single enemy in these glass tubes. Theoretically, if you wait until you have power bombs, you might be able to kill them with that. I've never tried. Wave beam does good enough. You do need to jump down, though, because some enemies aren't visible from either vantage point. And which means you need to go through this room like twice, but oh well. That opens up a missile tank through a secret door right there. That's one that took me some time to figure out how to get when I first played the game, because there's no way to really know that's there, except for one thing. When you beat, and this is slightly getting ahead of ourselves, I know. When you do beat the game, every single item you haven't grabbed is marked on your map. And not in the way of, say, like how Zero Mission Infusion did it, where you go back into your save file and you have the totals, I believe, for every area, and maybe even the game in general. It's overall, like, every item that you haven't gotten yet is shown. Next up, for some items we haven't grabbed, we need to go back towards where we fought the mech the deleter was using. The first one's in the hallway, even right before the room. Just aim right there and fire away. If anything, it looks like I should have been poking through the floor with how tall it is. But oh well. So the next room as well has some items for us. We already knew there was an energy part in here, but you can even see on the map there's another item marked here. You just need to space jump across this area and you get to it, no problem. Also, I think you might be able to gain height with the space jump in this game, sort of, but nowhere near as effectively as you could in the 2D games. If only because the level design in this game isn't exactly vertically structured. It's all about the 3D space, and having the space jump in a game in 3D space, the way it worked in the 2D games, would completely break it. That's why I like what they did with it in the Prime trilogy, where they just made it a straight-up double jump. That works a lot, and it makes for a nice upgrade into the screw attack later on, because the two abilities are usually paired together in terms of either getting them soon next to each other or them activating at the exact same moment, just because, well, not silhouette, somersaulting. There we go. With that said, that is every item we can get this far out into the areas. Now we need to go all the way back to the main elevator. Could I have cut this out? Yes. Should I probably go back and cut it out now? Yes. Will I do it? Nah. I'm already here. I'm only realizing this can make for a better editing flow now. Oh well, we get to see this pretty hallway again in fast motion, not slow motion. With that though, now let's cut back to the secret missile door just to get things over with. If you didn't like how that was structured, you're not going to like what happens after you beat the game. Because like I mentioned before, you cannot get 100% in this game until after you've beaten it for 2 notable reasons. We'll get into why later. That's the secret missile. It has the potential for to be broken, but it is just a borderline key with the way the game treats it, honestly. So, the path to Sector 0 is an anti-gravity level in 2 ways. A, we're going to be on the ceiling for a lot of it, but the times where we're not on the ceiling, we're going to be in heavier gravity where Samus cannot jump nearly as high, and I think she can't also speed boost due to that. With that said, the level design's meant to be played both ways, so you just need to do constant space jumps to get over a lot of the little gaps in the floor. I honestly find this to be not very annoying. I know some people really don't like anti-gravity or enhanced gravity levels. I don't mind them myself. They're like I've spoken at length about what my least favorite platforming mechanic is. It's always going to be darkness levels. Like not even sewer levels or ice levels, always darkness. I can handle adjusting my control. Having to break a pace though just doesn't feel right. Yeah, you can't speed boost like this. The heavy gravity, I like the effect of it. I don't know why Samus making thud-like steps every single step is just funny to me. A bit odd they make you do some combat encounters in this room, though. At least I think you do. I want to say you have to take care of these guys. If you don't, I would be genuinely surprised. Also, annoying thing about the heavy gravity room is you cannot use missiles at all. Well, you can sort of use missiles. The thing is, the missiles also gravity is also applied to the missiles. So if you shoot them too far away, they'll just go straight into the ground. But if you're right next to something, you can still hit them with it. With that said, the cases where you would use that are limited. Also, I want to say you can get the Cretians, whatever these things and name are. I want to say you can get them out of their shocked state with the screw attack, but I don't think I've honestly ever tried. I feel like you should because it's the screw attack, but I don't know. I've been surprised in larger ways by smaller things and vice versa. We can't get that item yet because, well, gravity. This is a really neat area in my eyes, though, because it's the only time the game really does something this out and out with its platforming. Like, usually the platforming itself isn't the puzzle. It's a combat room with maybe a minor platforming jump in it here or there, or find out where to jump to and where here. This is the only time they outright have little puzzles, and it's mostly because they realize they can do something interesting-ish with the gravity and the space jump. But I wish the game did something like this more often. This is something I would love to see in a mainline Metroid game. Because, like, the way even Dread does the gravity suit is pretty typical for how it's usually done. It's like, alright, here's water. Cool? Cool. But here, I feel like they could... I think a Metroid game, before you get a gravity suit, needs to be, here's an anti- and heavy gravity section that you need to deal with that gets completely redefined once you go through it. That would be so cool. And now it's done. Bit of an awkward ending, because it's just suddenly, oh, hey, you passed this little hill, but oh well. I would recommend saving here, by the way. It's not your last save point for a while, but you are coming up on some meaty cutscenes. Well, there's another save point on the way to that. With how long some things, cutscene-wise, are coming up with, I would just recommend being safe rather than sorry. Not often the game does that. That's a little suspicious. Here's just a room. There's your door. Get to it. Odd, but oh well. Let's just get to the top end of that door. I don't know why, but I'm reminded of a certain boss fight from Spider-Man in the PlayStation 1 with this room layout. Odd. Alright, door's right over here. Buddy, I haven't seen you in forever. It was 8 years after your last appearance when this game got released, and it's... How long ago did I last do an LP of Fusion? It's been since then, since we saw you on the channel. With that said, Nightmare is probably one of my favorite boss fights in the game, because he uses the gravity and how it affects things to its advantage. Your missiles will not be able to hit him, so you need to rely on your charge shots being sucked into his gravity changer to freeze it, and at which point you can do some active damage by doing a super missile or just a missile to its face. When it's not doing that, it's firing all sorts of projectiles at you. Round ones that home in on you slightly, giant lasers that sweep across the entire field that you need to jump over. This is a really cool fight. It's pretty easy, though, because, as you might be able to see, super missiles do about 1/6 of his health. There are going to be points, I think it's like every 2 or 3 missiles, that he resets gravity. You need to do the freezing it again thing. But that's such a minor problem that it's laughable. This is a very easy fight. With that said, I do like it. There are times where just reusing a boss like this can be nostalgic pandering, but when it's only the second time it's been used in a series, I'm fine with it. Ridley is mostly a tradition thing. It is very much a thing of timing, and I think reusing Nightmare is cool. Especially for reasons we'll get into later on. Much later on, honestly. Hey, why'd you dodge that? I do like that the more damage you do, I think it's like every 5th or so of the health. The mask gets more damaged. With that said, again, the fight's very repetitive. That's probably his most dangerous attack right there, where he does a full body charge across like half the level you're on. But the levels only really come to play if you fall down, which you probably shouldn't unless you get knocked off by the charge, which then, again, you can just sense move through, so oh well. Fight's not hard, but I do like it quite a bit. Now show me your face so I can give you a nice kiss on it with a missile. I have never seen a missile miss like that. That's... Huh. I didn't know they hummed like that. Well, that was a little bit weird, wasn't it? But still, nice little fight. With that said, we really should get to Sector 0 to take care of those Metroids, so let's head through this door! Well, odd. The thrusters are turned on. They're probably not supposed to do that, but, oh well, if the game could load this next room, that would be great. The load times in this game when you get to a room too quickly aren't too bad. They mostly only start after you get the speed booster. I'd say the longest load time in the game is whenever you start the game up, because they're loading a good bit. I want to say the game loads rooms around you at a pretty good pace otherwise. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 15, the other that scene from the game. See you guys then.